Hello. Okay, so I have heard from a bunch of you that when you sit down to paint on your own, you don't know where to start. You don't have a plan. You need the tutorial. You need something that's giving you direct instruction on how to do the painting. And I want to say, first of all, that is a very normal feeling. I still feel that way half the time when I sit down to paint something I've never painted before. It's like, where do I even begin? Totally normal. Also, when you're a new painter, there can be a sort of gap between your vision for what you want to paint and your ability to paint that thing. And the only way to fill in that gap is by painting and practicing and doing stuff that's not necessarily comfortable for you to do at your current skill level. I do talk a lot about painting for the joy of painting and keeping it simple, and we do a lot of things that are really easy and fun, and you can sort of do it whether you know how to paint or not. But if you're trying to take your painting to the next level where you can see something in the world and want to recreate it with art, then you do have to sort of practice. You have to practice drawing, for one. I should have held your hand when I said that, because I know it's going to be hard to hear. You do have to be able to draw some things. And it can be really, really simple drawings, but sometimes that's a barrier. That idea that like, oh, I don't know how to draw that thing, can be the beginning of the end in terms of a project. So I was thinking today we would focus on drawing. And I know you guys are like, wait, what? This is not what I signed up for. We're gonna paint too. But I wanna kind of reference back to something that I've talked about before, which is this book. It's called Draw Your Day. This was one of my favorite books. It is one of my favorite books. It was one of my favorite books when I was first starting out with painting, because it gives you ideas for how to just draw on the normal everyday objects of your life and create art from that. And you can see from the pictures, like the drawings are super simple. They're really simple. I think when we're beginning as artists, we have to sort of pick our battles, right? We have to focus on one thing or the other. So like, we can't get overwhelmed by drawing the perfect apple, painting the perfect apple, representing the perfect apple through art. This book gives us permission to draw a simple apple, add some simple watercolor to it, and have something on the page that is representative of what was in our head or sitting in front of us. It sort of takes the pressure off. And the more comfortable I got with this style of art, of like drawing simple forms, filling it in simply with the paint, the more comfortable I got with both of those things. And the more I painted simply, the more I understood how watercolor works. The more I understood how much water to use and how much paint to use and when I needed to let it dry. And taking the pressure off of myself to make it look exactly like this apple and just making it look like an apple somehow helped something in my brain that made it easier for me to approach a subject that I hadn't painted before. So we're gonna pick an object. I've already chosen it. You didn't help to pick it. I already picked it. I already picked an object that we're gonna paint. It's actually 5 objects sitting in front of me. And you probably have some at home. We're gonna do paintbrushes. I just grabbed some paintbrushes from the desk and we're gonna draw these, and then we're gonna add some color to them with our paints, and we're gonna outline it in some pen, and we're gonna have a really fun sketchbook page when we're finished. And hopefully it's gonna give you a new way of looking at the things in your life so that maybe you'll tackle painting some of those things. And the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna do a warm up. This video is so weird. This is not the normal video, right? We're gonna do a little warm up. So to start with, I'm gonna use my practice book and I'm gonna use a pencil, and I have a pencil with no eraser. We're not erasing anything. We are gonna have fun doing this little warm up. If you don't want to do this in your practice book or your sketchbook or whatever you're going to paint on, you can just do this on a piece of printer paper or notebook paper. It's just a warm up. Once we finish our warm up, you're going to need some watercolor paint, some pens, like fine liner pens. I do find that like a really fine point makes just enough of an outline on your watercolor to like make it feel finished without it really standing out. So a fine pen is ideal. If all you have is like a Sharpie or something like that, it will be fine. And then I'm gonna use my size 8 brush and my size 6 brush, probably, maybe. Only future me knows for sure, and that is it. Oh, the other thing is, I'm gonna post a picture of my brushes on Patreon. So if you want this particular group of brushes for your work, you can sort of print that out and follow along. But if you wanna just use your own brushes or your own pens or whatever reference you want that's just kind of like close by on your desk, that's totally fine too. One thing that I will point out is that it is like proven to be easier to draw from a photo than to draw from real life. So if you want to make it a little bit easier on yourself, you can just print out the reference photo that I'm gonna post on Patreon and use that, or you can just grab something from your desk and you can use those. So it's totally up to you. I guess we're doing a warm up next. I don't know what happened in this video. This is the practice book. This is what I'm going to be working in. These are the brushes. These are the brushes that we're gonna paint. We're gonna paint the paintbrushes. So, but for right now, for the warm up, we do not need these. We can put those aside, and we are going to get a fresh page here, and we're just going to make lines. Okay, we're just going to make a bunch of lines with our pencil. And this is just meant to warm up. So we're just making lines across the page, and we're trying to keep the lines sort of equal distance apart. This is just like helping our brain and our hand connect. Okay, that's all we're doing here. Maybe we do some, whoa, vertical lines. These are harder for me. Maybe we go bottom to top. Wow. Yeah, it's definitely harder to do vertical lines for me. Maybe we do some circles. Let's do some circles. So I will also say, like, I'm going kind of fast, but when I have taken painting classes and done art stuff with people before, a lot of times they'll have you do lines for like a full minute. So a full minute of practice. Definitely you could do a full minute of lines if you wanted to. So now I'm just gonna try to make a circle. And maybe we go around a bunch of times to get it sort of where we want it. Wow. Maybe I'll try doing it, whoa, counterclockwise. Whoa, that is way harder for me. I got really off my lines there. What about, let's do an ellipse. There are actually a lot of ellipses when you draw. So it's a good thing. Let's make this one go this way. It's a good thing to practice. And put one right here. I have a feeling, I'm going to go ahead and do my paintbrushes on this page. So I'm leaving a little bit of space here because I have a feeling I'm going to need some space on that side of the page. All right, so we've got our little warm up. Our hand is warmed up. We're feeling like our brain is connecting to our hands. So at this point, we are going to start drawing our brushes. I'm going to do this one pretty much in the middle. And for me, when I look at this, the shape that stands out to me is this rectangle right here. So that's going to be the first thing. That's going to be the first thing that I draw. I'm going to draw that rectangle. And I am not going to attempt to make this like dimensional. I'm just drawing the paintbrush. I'm just drawing the paintbrush. It's not going to be like, it's not going to be three-dimensional. So there's like some little bump outs on the sides here. You can see like where that little edge is. And then there are lines that come across. So there's that. You know what? I did not really leave enough space in between for these lines, but that's okay. I think it's fine. I can add those in if I want them with the pen later. Maybe I can put them down here. Like, it's a reference, but also like it's art, and you can do your own thing if you want to. Let's see. Where's my, I'm going to use an eraser on this. I'm just going to erase that line. I want to leave enough space so that I can get these two little bolts in there, because I think they're kind of cute. So we do those there. Straighten out my line a little bit, and then it kind of comes down this way. I think I made that a little too narrow. And then we're just going to have it come down here off the page. And you know what? It gets fatter again. It gets fatter down here. So I'm just gonna do it like that. All right. I think this looks pretty good. And then, of course, the bristles are gonna come up, and they're gonna be about this long. It doesn't really matter if we fill all this in with pencil, because we're gonna do it with pen and paint later. All right, there's our first brush. Now let's do this one, and this one is going to be gonna do this one like right here. Same thing. I'm gonna focus on this. It's very similar. It's very similar to the other one in that it's a rectangle. And there are 3 lines on this one up at the top. And then the two little bolt thingies. And then this one is a fatter, this one's a fatter handle. So, all right, there's that one. And this one has shorter bristles, right? Maybe a little bit longer than that. Okay, there's that guy. This one, I'm also going to focus on this part of the paintbrush. Let's do this one. Let's do this one like right here. So I'm trying to get it to hold still. It's kind of just a little bit curved at the top, and then maybe we do it right here. And then it comes down. I feel like it bows out just a little bit on the edges. That doesn't look, that's not, I don't know. That might be a little, it might be, I think I got it a little too fat, but that's all right. And then there's a line here and a line here. And then it's just gonna come down and it tapers a little bit, gets a little bit more narrow as it gets down toward the bottom. And then the brush part is pretty much like, this part is like a rectangle and then it comes up to the point. Okay. All right. There's that guy. This is with paintbrushes, obviously, but you could do this with absolutely any object. Any object. We're just looking for the shapes. So this one is going to be more of like a triangular shape, where it's gonna be, actually, you know what? I'm going to draw this rectangle first. That's the first part I'm going to draw. I'm going to make this like that. And then it's going to come down at an angle. That's that triangle that I was talking about, right? And this is this line right here. And then it's got another line. And it kind of curves out on the sides. And then it's a little bit fatter in this area, and then it gets more narrow. But not by like a ton, right? Just slightly. Like I think I narrowed it. I think I narrowed it in too much on this side. And then this one, the brush part of it is kind of like rounded. at the top. Yeah, more like that. Even more rounded than I had it at first. And then it will have all the bristles coming off of it. And there's sort of a line. There's like a little indentation right there that we've added. Okay, so we've got those guys. And then as I thought, this guy I think needs to be probably on this page. So I'm going to start with this little, it's like a little half moon, half circle, right? And then it comes down at a little bit of an angle. This is a very narrow paintbrush. If you guys are using your own paintbrushes, I do think a bigger paintbrush is a little bit easier. It's easier to draw, and it's going to be more interesting probably to paint than one of these little, one of these little narrow guys. It's definitely not that fat. I made my line a little bit too wide. Oh, I think this one is actually like kind of challenging to get the lines exactly right because it's so narrow. Good practice. Good practice. And then the fan, this is a fan brush. So it comes out from this little line. And then it curves. Sort of like that. And then it's got the bristles. My lineup of brushes is complete. So you can see like we didn't spend a whole lot of time drawing these out. It doesn't have to be a perfect drawing. Not even close to perfect. It can be just a sketch, just a simple sketch. And at this point, we're gonna add some color with our watercolor paints. And we're gonna keep the painting part very simple, just like the sketch and just like the pencil or the pen portion. We keep each element very simple, but when we put it together, it's gonna look really illustrative and fun. And I think if you try this sort of technique, you will find that you're happy with your results. So I'm gonna start with this one and work my way over because I'm right-handed. So if I paint this one and I work my way, hopefully I won't drag my hand through it. But I'm just gonna kind of look at the brush that I'm painting and I'm gonna say, let's see, this yellow ochre and probably some burnt umber. That'll get us pretty close to that brush, the handle of the brush. And then I'm just gonna add the paint. And we're not doing anything fancy here with this. We're just, and especially on this one, because this handle is like so narrow, there's not there's not much to do. We just put a little bit of color in there. I do want to let this dry. If you guys are using the practice book paper dries really quickly. That's part of why I picked it. Because when I'm practicing, I want to move fast, right? I want to practice quickly. So this is going to dry really fast, but I'm going to go ahead and do the bristle part. And the bristles on this one, I'm going to get some of this mid orange and maybe a little bit of Indian red. And then I'm just gonna quickly add a little bit of color to this. And I didn't erase my pencil lines because this is a sketch. This is the practice book. I don't care if there are pencil lines in there. I kind of like seeing the pencil lines on something like this. If you don't like that, erase them. You can totally erase them. Okay, so there's that brush. Well, see, I just got a big smudge because I had paint on my finger. Let's see. I'm not really too pressed about a smudge in this book at this point, but you can kind of dab at it with a paper towel. And yeah, that's fine. I'm gonna let that dry, and then we'll come back and we'll do the metal part. So on the next one, that was this one. So this part is gonna be red. I just got another drip. My goodness. I'm gonna go back to my bigger. That's my reference brush, not my one I'm painting with. The size 8. I'm gonna go back to my size 8. And I'm gonna grab some red. This is just straight up red. And I'm gonna imagine on this one that we're gonna be able to see the shadow on the side of the paintbrush because this one is bigger, right? So I'm gonna pick a side to be the shadow side. I'm gonna say the left side is gonna be my shadow side. So that's the side I'm gonna start on, and I'm just gonna like fill this in. I do want to try to keep it somewhat straight, but and then I'm gonna leave some white space on the right side because that's gonna be like my little highlight. I'm just adding a little bit more paint. Oh, big drip again. You know what? I'm leaving that one. That one's gonna stay. So the goal here is not to make this look exactly like that paintbrush. The goal is just to represent my brushes, the brushes of my life, in a way that feels kind of illustrative and fun. I'm gonna darken up this side a little bit. All right. There's the handle of that brush. And then the bristles of this brush have some gray in it, and there's still some blue paint in this from something that I painted. So let's do a little Payne's gray. Let's do a little Payne's gray. And then we'll put the Payne's gray in there. And then I'm gonna do the tips with some ultramarine. No, there's a lot of ultramarine in there. That's okay. And I'm just gonna make like the idea of some little hairs of the brush sticking up. But we can do that with pen too. just gonna dry this off. I have a lot of paint and water on there. All right, now this one, I think for this handle, we're just gonna water down our first handle color a little bit. And then yeah, I think that's fine. We'll just put this in here. Same thing we did with the red one, where I'm gonna leave some white space. I'm just gonna roughly put this in. And maybe I'll grab a little bit of this burnt umber, even though this is, well, now it's going to be way darker than the actual paintbrush. That's okay. I got more pigment on there than intended, but it's going to add contrast. It'll actually be good. It'll be good. This is how we learn things, right? When we're painting. And there's a dog hair in there too, I think, which is always a good time. Okay. I don't think I want quite that much highlight. There we go. That seems a little bit better. But you can see, like, we're just going quick through this. We're just adding a little bit of color. And actually, this one is kind of like this one in that it had like gray bristles down towards the bottom, and then it's got pink. So I'm just gonna add my gray. And then we'll grab a little bit of fuchsia. And we'll just put, that's too concentrated. So I'm just watering it down a little bit. And then we're just gonna add that in. Make it look bristly on the end. And it can kind of blend in. All right. There's that one. This guy's kind of boring, actually. Let's get some yellow ochre. I'm thinking yellow ochre is pretty close to this guy. And same thing we did on the other ones, where we're just putting in some color. We're keeping a little bit of white space on whatever side you pick to be like your highlight side, and then letting the left side be darker. So I'm just adding a little bit more paint while it's still wet to that left side. Maybe just a touch of burnt umber to darken that up even a little bit more. For the bristles on this one, I think I'm just gonna keep it light. I just got a little bit of water on my brush, so I'm using that same color. We're just gonna keep this super light. This one's gonna be kind of boring. Kind of boring. It's fine. We can't all be sparkly stars, right? There's that one. And now this one is one of my brushes. So this one we're gonna have to mix up a color. Let's do a little bit of Prussian blue and some lake green. I probably have too much Prussian blue. It needs to be a little bit greener than that. Let's see. And I could test this. I could do this on a tester sheet, but this is just for fun. I'm not really trying to do like exact color matches on these. We're just getting the gist. Well, this brush just got a little bit fatter at the end. Okay, we'll put a little bit more paint on this left side, just dotting it in. That looks good. And then the brush part is going to be like Payne's gray, I think. We're just going to do straight up Payne's gray. A little bit of my blue from my handle color is mixed in there. I don't really mind that so much. All right. Yeah, I needed more green in there. That's all right. Okay, so while this guy dries, we're gonna go back to this guy and let's add some details to the metal part of this brush. So I've got my, you know what? I'm gonna switch to my size 6 for this. And this is my Payne's gray. I'm gonna use Payne's gray for the metal of all of these. And I'm gonna just kind of outline it, focusing mostly on this left side again, because that's where the shadows are. And we're gonna leave quite a bit of white space on that. There we go. That's it. That's all we're doing. We're gonna do the same style, same idea on this one. Let's just do left side. We'll go across here, down at the base. Do a line here, do a line up at the top, and maybe a couple lines just like that. And then we're just gonna leave it. That's it. That's all we're doing. And it is gonna look good. It is gonna be cute. You just gotta trust the process. Okay, this one, same thing. Let's go across the top here. And then down the side, left side, we'll just take these lines across. Maybe we'll do a little bit in here and at the bottom. And I'm just gonna outline my little bolts. I don't know, what are they? We'll also do this side. But mostly we're just keeping this super, super loose. Okay, he looks good. Same thing on this one. Bring this across a little bit. I have a little bit too much Payne's gray on there, I think. It's a little bit dark. It's okay. And down there, circle these little guys. Just gonna lift a little bit of that out. So just drying off my brush, I got a little bit heavy on that part. And then this one. That brush color's coming down in there a little bit because it's still kind of wet, but it's fine. It blends, so it's okay. All right, and there is that guy. So these guys that we've started with are mostly dry. And if we want to darken up the paint, we could add a little bit more. We could add a little bit more on the left side if you want it more pigmented. But mostly, when I'm doing something like this, I don't usually do like tons and tons of layers. I just kind of let it be pretty light. I might outline this right side just a little bit. Because this is just about representing the object. It's not about making it like super realistic or anything like that. And it looks like I smudged that. That's okay too. Okay, so at this point, we do need to let these dry before we can do the pen details, because you want it to be totally dry. Otherwise, you will mess up your pens. So we're gonna let this dry and then we'll come back and do the pen. Once these are all dry, you're just gonna grab a pen. I'm gonna do a 0.2. This is a very fine point. I'm gonna try to make sure that I do not have paint on me that I'm gonna drag all over the place. And then let's start with this one, because this is the biggest one. And I think it'll be easiest for you to see, because there is nothing to this. Like we're just adding some very simple pen details and doing some outlining. So bring that line all the way across, bring that one all the way across. The pen just has a way of making your paint feel more finished. It does a lot of the work. It does a lot of the work for you, the pen. Because obviously, like, we didn't spend a long time painting, and the pen is gonna help give some depth and dimension and like I said, like an illustrative quality to the drawing that it didn't have otherwise. So when we get up here, this is where all those lines that we practiced, we're gonna have to draw a whole bunch. So basically I just do a whole bunch of lines, like lines and lines and lines. And you pretty much just measure with your heart on this one. However many little bristles you think your paintbrush needs is the right amount. Okay, there's that one. We're gonna do the same thing on all of these. So, and if you need to refer back to sort of what it looked like before you added the paint, you can definitely do that. I'm not gonna get super deep on trying to make this ultra realistic at this point, but if you need that, you can always refer back. I do kind of like to make one side of the circle a little bit darker because that does give it some dimension. And all those little lines. Just going to darken these up just a little bit. And I think I want to darken up down here. Okay, that guy looks good. Okay, so we're gonna do this same process to all of these. And then once we've got all of our pen lines in, we're gonna come back and we're gonna do one last detail with the paint that's gonna really make it look like you did a lot. It's gonna make you super proud. So go ahead and do all of your pen work. I'm gonna fast forward because I don't think you need to watch all of these lines in real time. And then we'll come back and we'll do one last thing with the paint. Once your pen lines are all done, you can add just a little hint of a shadow and it's really gonna make it feel fancy. So this is just Payne's Gray. I've got maybe a little bit too much pigment. I'm just gonna add a little bit more water to it just to lighten it up. And we're just gonna go along that left side, along the left side of each brush, adding in the shadow. Now I feel like I didn't get it dark enough. This is what always happens with shadows, but I'm just gonna add a little bit more in. You can always add more in. It's very hard to take it away, right? So, all right, there's that one. And we'll do this one. So just staying on that left side. And if you're using my pens, the pens that I sell, they are water resistant, not waterproof. So like depending on how long you wait, they may bleed a little bit if you hit it with the water. But for doing a shadow, it doesn't matter, right? Because we're just making gray. So I don't worry about waiting for it to fully cure or dry before I put in a shadow because it's okay with me if it bleeds. And like this red is bleeding a little bit, that's okay too. We don't care about that. We'll do this one. So just following along that edge. I just feel like it's super satisfying. Putting in shadows is super satisfying. And gotta move my paints so I can get this last one. And that's it. I know that drawing is not super comfortable for people. This is just an example of like picking a subject that's really a simple form in order to practice your sketching skills, and then not getting hung up on the paint, just using the paint purely as color and having fun with it and keeping it nice and loose, because the pen then brings it all together. So we did a little practice, we did a little sketching, a little painting, and a little line work. And to me, this is a really accessible way to paint the things that you see in your world that are interesting to you. This is what a sketchbook is for. I might paint in the circles. I might. Okay.